right, now where'd he go? He hit himself.
I was just waiting on you to get in there. Mm.
Uh,
What up, everybody? How are y'all? I am still not 100%, so y'all gonna have to bear with me. Whatever this sinus crud that I've been toting around for the past week or two has just got me drained a little bit, and then I keep injuring myself, and it's been a week.
yeah, you gotta stop doing that.
Well,
The injuring yourself anyway. I can't help you or give you any advice on your sinuses.
yeah, well, I'm pretty sure I know what it was. My wife's had it for a while now,
Huh.
but I didn't. I don't know that I've ever had the stuff, but I have felt a little drained lately.
Yeah.
That's about all I
Well,
ever get is just a little bit. I'll just get a little drained and won't have my usual get up and go for a little while.
well, I
But
I did my best to put the hurt on my sinuses as well today. I was milling up a bunch of wood. As a matter of fact, you can kind of see it leaning up against the CNC there. I was pulling out
yeah,
a variety of things to get planed down and milled down to usable stuff for a variety of things. So
yeah,
I have a variety of dust masks, but usually the dust collection does a good job. But there's also those times when you accidentally blow on the wrong thing and put a cloud of sawdust into the air, and you go, that's going to hurt later.
yeah. That cedar you've been working with is definitely one of those
Yeah,
irritants. Once that dust gets in the air, it'll irritate you a little bit.
yeah. But yeah, no, I haven't injured myself, but it's been a busy week here as well. We had our model airplane club had their 20th anniversary of our warbird fly-in, and I wasn't
Cool.
as involved as I have been in the past, but was over there a couple of days. Part of that was to deliver some signs that I cranked out for a friend that was coming back from Idaho to that event. So got that video out yesterday as well, which was kind of a neat thing to do for him. But we're ramping up close to semester start here, so work's gonna get real busy here for me for a couple weeks, and then hopefully come Labor Day it'll relax.
Yeah. All right. Well, let me run through here and see who all we got showed up so far. Got Steve Holcomb says hello from Chanute, Kansas, maybe. All right, what's up, Robbie? Chris, how are you, sir? Miss Sharon. Chuck, Richard, Manny, Robbie Giglio, how are you, sir? Miss Sharon again. They got a little conversation going on there. Just Jim Pitts from Wichita. Uh, Norbert, how are you, sir? And there's Brian, as usual. I got you today, Brian. Let's see here. Nipa, hello from Illinois. And let's see who else we got. It's a little conversation there. Roger, Brad, Don, Patty, Victor, Timmy B. But yeah, looks like a lot of the usuals. Maybe a few new faces. Appreciate y'all joining us tonight, and we're gonna, like I said, hopefully we'll have a little bit more stuff to talk about. I know Steve actually did some woodworking projects this past week, doing his cedar and stuff. And I know everybody was kind of fired up about that. I watched the videos on those; it turned out really well.
Yeah.
But yeah, the cedar, dust, black walnut. Black walnut actually can be toxic if you get too much of it. Uh, is definitely not something you want to be breathing a lot of. And I learned that one the hard way with the sawmill. Is black walnut will literally make you sick if you breathe too much of it.
Well, I mean, any amount of sawdust getting in your lungs is generally bad, but there's some, like you say, walnut and others that can be even bigger irritant. Cedar is another one. Yep. So,
But yeah,
what?
all in all, it's been quiet around here. Been playing with a little Saint Smart CNC, and I guess you've been doing the same thing, and you're having the same issue I'm having with the probe, right? It is a,
Yeah.
and I've emailed them, and they keep telling me that they think I'm doing something wrong, but I've explained to them that there's some
I,
reverse polarity or something going on there.
yeah. I did email them about that, but they haven't gotten back to me on that one. I also happened to somehow disable the power to the router. I don't know. I'm wondering if just a switch malfunction or something. I tore into it a little bit but couldn't find it. So they're sending me a new one, and so I can finish that out. It was doing great up until the time the router just decided to shut down and not turn back on. So hopefully that's just. I mean, it happens. You know,
Yeah.
any batch of products, it happens. So um, yeah, it's a nice little machine. I should have that actually tomorrow. Unfortunately, UPS just couldn't get it to me on Friday, so I'd be able to work with it this weekend. But I'll have that tomorrow, and then I'll be able to work on it a little bit more and get at least my initial video out on that, because I do have a few projects, CNC wise, to play with, and figured that one would work just as well as the 150 on some of these smaller ones. So looking
Yeah.
forward to that.
Yeah, so far it's the one I've got. I've had, like I said, other than the whole probe uh, misconfiguration issue I'm having, but it's working great. Uh, done a good job. I haven't had any problems with the spindle, and but I could see where, I mean, it is a very cheaply made spindle, I guess you would say, but it's about par for the Makitas. So I mean, it could
I,
be the roller or the switch. Either one, I
yeah,
think, could possibly be bad. So,
yeah.
but
Yeah, I mean, I would put it in the quality line of like a Makita. It's definitely, I think it's a little bit nicer than like the Bauer from Harbor Freight.
yeah,
Um, you know, and it's nice that it has that ER11 collet, and the end mill part of it, or the collet assembly sticks out less than it does on a trim router.
yeah.
So that's going to help with dust collection and other things as well. Um,
Oh yeah.
so yeah, well, I'll
Oh
get
yeah.
mine back up and running tomorrow, hopefully, and we'll start hammering things out. But you know, then the other cool thing is it is based on the whole 4040 framework. So people who have the old one can upgrade their gantry, get the new Z-axis, and if you wanted to, you could get the extended rails for this one as well to kind of grow a little bit. And I think in the past, now this I haven't played around with any of their others other than the 6050, but like you had found out, the deflection and such when you started pushing it harder was an issue. I feel like this Z-axis might hold up better, and maybe it'd be more
Oh, it
worthwhile
does.
doing that
It
upgrade over
definitely
time.
does. Comparing this machine to the 4040 Pro that I had to start with, speed as far as how fast it can move and what it is capable of is all the same. The biggest difference is when you're running a router where you have that extra cutting ability. With this Z-axis, you can actually push that bit hard enough to see a noticeable difference. Whereas before, if I tried to push the bit too hard, you would see the gantry would flex a little in the
Yeah,
cut, and it would dictate to lines in the material. It looked like everything you did looked like it needed to be trimmed because it would have a little pitch to the bit depending on which way it was pushing into the material. With this one so far, I haven't had any problems. Bolted it on there straight out of the box. Used their little router. I did adjust the depth that it sits in the mount
hmm,
to get it to where I wanted it. But yeah, it's doing really good. The only thing that I didn't have that I had to improvise with was the dust collection boots, but I had those for my 60 or for my Shepico 5, so I was able to just
yeah,
slap those on there and go. But that's the reason it's sitting in the middle of my other machine is so I don't have to rerun dust collection. I'm just piggybacking off of my already existing dust collection for now.
yeah. And before my router just went to sleep, I was actually doing some work with a 1/4 inch bit in there. You know, the downtown Jenny,
Yeah, I
and
hadn't got into
it was
that yet.
it was working real well. So
Yeah, the I know it has the capability, but I haven't taken the collet out of my other machine. I need to order some extra ones to play around with that. But so far, I've just been running the 1/8 inch bits, and with the right speeds and feeds, I'm actually surprised how fast I can complete jobs, even with just an 1/8 inch, because I've gotten kind of accustomed to using the 1/4 inch on the Shapeco. So I was a little surprised at how fast I actually could finish jobs with the 1/8 inch bits,
yeah.
because I thought it was going to be like a lot slower since I've been
Hmm.
using the other ones for long enough.
Well, um, yeah, so those have been fun to have in the shop. Like I say, I'm looking forward to getting mine back up and running here tomorrow. I've also I dropped a teaser in a short video. Um, I did finally receive an F1 Ultra from Xtool, so been getting that up and running. So we'll be able to do some work with that and see how it works out for me. Compared to what you've done and other people have done, it's definitely a lot larger than the original F1. So
Oh yeah, you can almost put the F1. You can sit it inside it if
yeah,
you adjust
yeah,
the
bring the focus thing up.
door enough.
So yeah, it's definitely not something I'd want to lug around too often. Um, it's not impossible to move, but it's tall and it's a bit heavy. So as far as portability, I that'll be my curious thing is, are there, what can it do more so than the original F1, and is it still viable? Is the F1 still the killer for like at shows and such, um,
Yeah.
versus other options? So, um, but yeah, I've got that in the shop, and then as I mentioned a couple weeks ago, that M1 Ultra, kind of the craft machine. I've been trying to figure it out, and what my it's a shift from more kind of traditional woodworking type work with our machines to more crafting. so I'm trying to figure out what my angle on that machine is, and I did do some basic cut testing on it. I was able to hook up air assist to it because I noticed that was something that other reviews were saying, is that it has a port, but they weren't sure how it works. I was able just to take the air assist off my D1 Pro and plug it right in. So it's manual, but you know.
You got it working, huh?
So yeah, I'm not sure. I'll be curious if they do support the smart one from the S1, yeah, because they've got some of those USB style ports on the back. So, um, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see that. But uh, hopefully those will go smoothly. Get some of that information out there and get back to some projects, because we've been teased with almost fall like weather out here.
It
Um,
hadn't got that cool here yet. We're still pretty hot.
well,
But
we had an overnight low down below 50 the other night, and our highs have been in the mid to upper seven. Well, a couple of days, highs barely got into the low 70s, which was really nice because I opened up the shop, opened up the windows on the house.
guys, I don't know why it's I don't know what's up with my volume. I am literally peaking out in the red over here on my outputs. So I don't know. My setup has been the same for a year now.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
I don't know what's going on. I've done looked at all my numbers. I'm redlining over here, guys. If I go any higher, it's going to start blowing up some stuff, and you can see all the little red lines I got popping over
well,
there. So
even in Restream, our levels are peaking about the same. But I mean, I can bump mine down a little bit and see if that helps. But I've bumped mine down. They're hardly registering on my
yeah,
mixer, and so
I think it's just a
that's,
lot of the difference in how people's watching or what they're watching with or whatever. Because
well, I mean, if it's
like I said, I
consistent
hadn't.
across other people, it's something somewhere. But you know,
But I don't know.
I think it's just selective hearing.
Well, like I said, I've got all of my stuff is set to. If I'm afraid if I go any louder, that it's going to blow some folks' ears up if they're listening to me on headphones or earbuds or something like that. Because it's like I said, everything looks normal.
Yeah. Well, and it's a hard thing for us to kind of troubleshoot because I'm only
Yeah.
hearing you, so I don't hear the
Yeah.
difference. And
Well,
like
I
you
can
say,
see. I can see we can see the feeds. Like I can see your video audio feed.
yeah, and those I bumped mine down about 15%. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, so yeah, figuring out that M1 Ultra and all the things you can do with it, and then kind of what what would make sense to do with it. From my our typical audience is going to be interesting. So,
Yeah.
but
Let's see
I think we did
here.
have a couple questions roll in too.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep a look for them. Keep on.
So
Let's
one of
see.
them was actually about glass. Here we go. I don't know if you've done some of this, but Jeffrey is asking, looking for beginning settings for engraving glass Christmas ornaments that is 8 millimeter thick using an MK2 20 watt.
Raise the focus.
So that's, yeah, I
It
mean, that's
depends
pretty
on the
similar
it
to the,
depends on the look you're going for too, and whether or not you're using spray. What color spray? Are you using gray? Are you using the titanium dioxide? Are you using Cermark? Are you using black spray paint? Chalk paint? There's a lot of variables, but it's more than likely going to be pretty relatively slow to get any kind of effect on glass. You're going to be sub 100 millimeters a second more than likely. So let me grab me a drink right quick.
but another, yeah, you're gonna need a coating of sorts. Another ballpark to look at is a lot of people have been doing mirrors, and that's basically just frosting the glass part after blasting through the back. And so you can look at that for some ideas. But unfortunately, yeah, it's gonna be one of those uh, have some extra material and do some material testing on it.
Yeah, like I said, glass is the cheaper glass seems to do better with less heat and everything. So hopefully it's not very expensive, but yeah, especially for the different machines, it's best to try to get you a baseline. But glass is pretty forgiving when you find the right power setting. It's pretty broad before you have to go change it everything.
Uh, ET is asking Dave, can you tell me why my 8s or 20 watt has started skipping in some spots when engraving?
What do we mean by skipping?
Yeah, I have a feeling this is one of those things where a photo would help quite a bit.
Yeah, is it leaving lines, or is it leaving dots? That's gonna be the difference.
Nope.
But
And Tim's making quite the jump. He's got the Mira 900 watt, making the switch from the We Create to the 9 after 2 weeks. Wow.
that's a big jump.
Yeah, yeah, a whole different machine. I think you'd
Big,
be a lot happier with the software.
yeah, big
Um,
jump and a big purchase.
you know the We Create is it's a decent laser to get started with, and I feel like what really handicaps it though is the software. I was helping someone who had bought my slate tile caddy file, and it imported everything but one line that separated two parts, and they were just struggling with it. And so at first they told me it was XCS, but then they corrected and said it's actually the We Create software. So I loaded that up, took a look, and sure enough, I mean it. I looked at my different files that I have on there because I have different sizes based on material, and they were all importing randomly. So
Mm,
I was able to fix the file and send them a specific We Create file and say, here, try this. So, um,
yeah,
which is not uncommon. I mean, I've had issues with other software importing vectors. Oddly, I just feel like that one gives me the most headache out of any of them right now. So,
yeah.
um, yeah,
Well, Klein likes the. He's got the 40 watt right now, using it mostly for tumblers, and he says he likes it, but he does not like the We Create software. But unfortunately, he has to run it with the rotary because me or him, neither one could figure out how to get the rotary to work with Lightburn, and from what I can tell, neither has anybody else. So he's been running it mostly in Lightburn, doing on the flat stuff, and then running it with the We Create software, doing the tumblers. And so far, he's doing a really good job with the tumblers, and he likes it, and it's still doing a good job. But I like Lightburn, and I like being able to use it. Now, there's a couple of my machines that I don't use Lightburn with because it wrecks the machines, like the S1, for instance. I prefer XCS with the S1, but for the most part, I try to stick with Lightburn.
Yeah.
I'm always designing in Lightburn. So,
Yeah.
Rick, using a culmination of about 3 different programs, but mostly OBS, Streamlabs, going into Restream. So, I think me and Steve are running basically the same main softwares.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I agree with you on that. I mean, the XCS has its nuances, but they do keep improving it. With that, some headaches. I do follow some of the Facebook groups around that, and some of the firmware updates break some people, which can happen, which is always good to. The nice thing is that you can uninstall and reinstall the old copy. So if you've downloaded it, you might want to save those as well. And as we've talked about on numerous videos and other things, make backups of your machine settings and such. But
Yeah.
it's yeah, the jumping from software to software and trying to support files like we do is sometimes frustrating when you get these one-offs that okay,
Yeah.
why isn't it importing into this one? So
Yeah, and I found out the other day that like what is it, the Glowforge software? You have to have a specific SVG format. It's not just a regular SVG. Because I had a lady that was trying to use one of my files, and she said, "Do you have SVG so I can use it in my Glowforge?" And I'm like, "Sure, yes, absolutely." And then she kept telling me it won't import it, and I'm like, "There's no way." So I downloaded the Glowforge software, and and experimented with it, and sure enough, it would not. I had to change it over to a what was the software? Inkscape SVG.
mm,
And once I took it, put it in Inkscape, and then saved it again, and finally got it to work, and I was just like, that's where a lot of these proprietary machines get like you talked about. You know, they always advertise, oh, you can use SVG files with it or DXF, but then a lot of them can't interpret those files and bring them in. I've seen that even with XCS, with the DXF files and some of the SVGs, it brings them in and breaks shapes or moves lines or whatever. So that's where it gets a little frustrating sometimes, trying to be as versatile with which machines we support, so to speak.
oh,
But yeah.
yep.
Rick, I don't know. This is gonna be another busy week. I've got to get I gotta get my head above water this week. It seems like I take 7 or 8 freaking deliveries, and then I pick up 7 or 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2. Yeah, I got 9 stove covers this week, and I just finished. Which there's some more stuff going on this, but I just finished up this little file here for an event that I'm getting them ordered for, and so I got to make like 20 something custom these. Now, I just got the file put together this afternoon and got it to where I can move forward with that one. So between the painting and the cutting and the painting and sealing and staining and gluing and all that, that's going to take me probably a day or two working on it in the afternoons.
So Jeffrey, on the going back to the glass bit, it's actually glass is something where you don't need a whole lot of power. You're just trying to frost it, and so if it's blowing through the Surmark and tempera and not leaving a mark, you may actually want to back off your power a bit, and try that. Otherwise, it'll just blast away the medium, or you're going to actually fracture it. And instead of a frosted look, you'll get a kind of a gritty look that is not something that's fun to run your finger across. So try backing off the power. if you've been running some tests, not getting anything, and try it that way and see.
I just saw where Rick said a UV laser is best with glass. Yeah, I guess if you have one.
Mm-hmm.
Not too many people are going to have those.
Too old to do this. Got an X2 F1 and it was working fine. Then suddenly the focus is fine, but it shows nothing when trying to frame. Um, I've not necessarily on the F1, but on some of my Galvos, I've actually had to basically reboot them. They kind of sometimes they just kind of lose themselves. So you might want to try completely powering down, unplugging it, plug it back in, and see if that brings back your red diode, or the red dot laser that will do your framing and such. Um,
Well, is that in Lightburn or XCS too? Because
yeah, I guess.
if it's in XC, if it's doing it in XCS and if it's doing it in Lightburn and not XCS, it's probably a Lightburn issue. But
Could be, but
I would imagine surely it would be an XCS.
I've had it a couple times on more than just the F1 where, they've got that little red dot laser for positioning, and it's just now there are the times that I forget to take the lens cap off, but yeah, he says it's
Yeah,
an
he said it's
XCS.
XCS.
So I don't know. I would first try a full power cycle, see if that brings that secondary marking laser back online. If not, it might be something got to reach out to X-Tool about. There's not a whole lot to be able to turn on and off those. They lock down their firmware and such pretty well with the X-Tool machines.
Yeah. Dennis, I've seen a couple of the machines they've talked about, and they've actually tried to get me to take one of them, but so far, Adam Stack wanted me to take this latest big, massive A70 Pro or whatever, the big, what was it, 36 by 36 machine. It was like 850 by 850. I don't have that kind of room for a laser, nor do I have a need for one. So that's not a laser that big is just not something that I'm really looking to get into right now. I wouldn't mind having one a little bit deeper than the X40, like give me another 6 inches.
Yeah,
depth,
I actually,
but I don't need nothing longer.
I was running into that issue. I used the X40 for those signs this week,
Yeah,
and I could have used a little more depth as well, just in framing out and making sure they worked, but the one board was bigger than my working area on there, so I couldn't fully create like an outline frame for it to get it locked in place. But I was able to work without it. But yeah, I would agree. They've reached out to me as well, and I just haven't wanted to take on too many things besides what I've got going on right now. And so I think they've been doing a lot of marketing, because I'm seeing more and more of their ads pop up places. So
yeah. Well, I do have. You kind of talked me into this one. Laser Pecker is sending me the Laser Pecker 5. It's supposed to be here, I think, sometime this week. Also, had another company reach out to me, and I haven't nothing solid, but they asked me if I'd be willing to try out one of their CO2 machines or one of their fibers. And the fiber that they're offering is a 60-watt MOPA. So I'm considering getting it because I just don't use CO2 that much. So I'm gonna see. We're gonna see. I'm gonna see what they're wanting in return. Make sure they're not, trying to pull something over on me. But it's a well-known company, so that shouldn't be a problem. But I don't like to get too heavily involved in contracts and all that kind of stuff. So as long as they're good with us doing it the way that I normally do my agreements with people, then I'll probably try it. One of the two. But I'm leaning more towards the fiber than I am the CO2, just because, one, I don't use CO2's enough to really justify coming up with space for another desktop CO2. But I don't want to get rid of the one that I've got already. So we'll see how it goes. So we'll see what they offer.
Dark Force is asking about power banks for the F1. I'm thinking of dipping their toe into community events. Really, it's going to depend on how long you feel you need to run, and then it's there's a lot of different brands out there with a lot of different features. What I like to do is try to find your watt hour per dollar ratio and try to get the most power bang for my buck. And so um, I have, and I did that in my camping video where I was running my, I mean, this is more of like a gaming laptop. It has like a 200-watt power supply plus the Atom Stack A24 with the pump and the air exhaust going. That was pushing about 300 watts. So with that unit, it's like a 1500-watt rating. I was going to get maybe about 4 hours if everything was running at full. Now, ideally, if I was trying to set up for these events, I'd run a computer that isn't drawing, 180, 200 watts. I would get, like a Surface Pro or something that's going to be running 65 watts or something like that. And the F1 is going to run a lot less power than this Atom Stack with the air pump and everything else. So that unit that I was showing there should run a laptop and an F1 for a good solid day, a good 7 or 8 hours at an event, because you're not going to be running it constantly. It's not running a lot of the extra accessories. But those are going to be probably costing you around $500-$600 on up for that, that amount of power, that wattage. You could definitely get some smaller ones. So if you just feel like you're going to be maybe doing 3-4 hours of running, you could look at, some of the smaller ones like the Jackery 500s and such. Jackery's a nice brand, but you're paying a lot for brand name there. So just, look around at those. The VTO Man or Vito Man unit that I've got, that's they've been around a bit. They have a few different inverters, solar generators, whatever you call them. But they tend to be a little lower priced per watt hour. So that's kind of where I ended up with that one.
Yeah. Dennis, there again, depends on what you're going to be doing with the machine. These machines, there's no one machine that's good at everything. Depends on the type jobs you're going to be doing, the size of materials you're going to be using for it, the type material that those things are made out of, how much size and how much room you have to commit to it. There is a lot of variables, a lot. So you just need to, like I said, first of all, you got to figure out how much room you got. Then you got to figure out how much money you got, and then what kind of projects you're going to be working with. And it's a checklist. And I see people talking all the time about, yeah, you can only do it with this machine, or you got to have this, or you got to have. You can make it work with a lot of different machines. It just depends on what your product is. Now, if your product is going to be, cutting out acrylic, then you need to purchase the appropriate machine that's geared towards doing that. So that's the biggest thing, is don't mess around and buy something just because somebody told you it was a good machine if it's not going to do the things that you're going to be trying to do to make money with. So it's just a lot of variables, a lot of them. That's why I have all these different machines just kind of sitting around waiting. I don't run every one of them every day, but there's days that I run at least a couple of them most every day.
Mm-hmm.
On different jobs.
Well, and that, if you are in business, it is kind of nice to have multiple machines, both from an efficiency standpoint and a failback standpoint.
Yeah.
You spend too much money on one machine and it goes down and you can't do anything. You got a lot of money tied up in a paperweight. Whereas if you have a couple of modest machines, one goes down, you're still running.
Yeah. Well, it's just like this little thing. Just about any machine I have in the shop could do this, but I set this up for the X40 because I know on the X40 I can put like 5 of them in there and just let it burn out all the pieces. But I ain't got to sit there and just keep feeding it wood. But But yeah, it just depends. Depends on what job I'm doing, which machine I'll use. Not sure what this is saying. Not sure about that one.
Yeah. So what speed do I set? 100. So if you're trying to set up a test file, like a material test file, um, your speed's going to depend a lot on your laser. It's also going to depend on if it's in millimeters a second or millimeters per minute. That'll change that number rapidly. So, um, that's where I try to find, that's where having ballpark numbers will help. So, let me just open up Lightburn here, but it if it's a let me see if I can find a 20-watt machine. Um, nice thing is you can save these and reference them. So on a 20-watt for my cut tests, if you're in millimeters per minute, I will start around 400 to 600 millimeters a minute, and then I will run my power from 50 to 100% because there's really no sense in cutting at 10 to 50% power. You might bump it up from there. Um, but I've seen some 20 watts that don't want to cut at 400, and some that were still cutting at 600 at 60, 70%. So then you can bump it up from there, or if it's not cutting at the 400, you need to bump it down from there. Also going to be material dependent. If you're using something like craft plywood or even just straight basswood versus Baltic birch multi-ply plywood, it's definitely gonna change those numbers as well. But yeah, again, that's where I will share some of my numbers to get people into the ballpark. But from there, you gotta move those numbers up or down as you're interpreting that test. So hopefully that's what you're talking about and can get you in there.
Greg, I'm not sure what you're talking about on this one either. Greg says, "Hey, you guys, has there been a favorite or more fun project?" I don't know exactly what he means by that. I've just been trying to get caught up, so it's really not. There's really not been a whole lot of creative stuff going on over here. Most of mine has just been trying to get jobs out
Yeah,
and get done.
I I'm with you there. I've got a few projects in mind I want to play with, and I would say that's kind of the fun part is trying. When someone brings you like a new challenge and you got to figure it out. Um, so and that's where if you watched my off grid lasering video, part of that was a challenge to myself. Was like, okay, put yourself in this environment. Like if you're out camping, what are some things I could create related to camping. And so it kind of forces my brain to think about what would be useful and what can I actually create with the lasers. So, I mean, that was kind of fun in that aspect. Um, Sometimes just solving a problem, like when I did my dust or my exhaust pipe clamps, for mounting them on the wall. That was I needed a solution to be able to mount these things in, and it had these laser, have the lasers, and then so I created those kind of clamps that can hold the piping in there. Things like that are fun, but I don't know. For me, I think it's just the variety of getting something different. I mean, it was fun having my friend send me like, "Hey, we can you make these signs for me?" And you know, I think that what's fun for me is something new and different to
Yeah.
do.
Oh yeah, yeah. I definitely enjoy coming up with things and creating and getting try new stuff way more than I do the same old same old. But truth of the matter is, the same old pays the bills and allows me to do the fun stuff. So I wind up having to do with both. But yeah, like you said, I enjoy the thrill of the challenge and of doing it. And once I've done it one time, it's just kind of like, okay, all right, now I know how to do that. So let's move on to something different. But yeah. Hello from Orange County. Well, hello there. Not sure which Orange County. There's a bunch of them, I think. California. Okay, there we go.
Sharon's saying she's trying to run a material test but could not get it to run in a specific spot. Kept giving the message that part is over the print area and won't run.
Must have been a
Well,
big test grid.
yeah, I mean that would be a little surprising. Let me see. So if in Lightburn, if you're in your material test, the Y center and X center here down on bottom, this is where it's going to adjust the actual location that it's going to run. So that's where you can. So like if I, you know, if I preview this, it's not really going to show the whole where it is in the board, but you can adjust these numbers, and you got to remember that's the center of your object. So if you're trying to get it into this lower left corner here, you're going to want to bump both these down to something like 100 or 75 depending on the size of it. But if you're doing that and then if you bump this down to 10, then that's going to stick the center of it over on this edge, and then that's going to be overlapping outside the border here. So you don't want to go too far with those numbers. So just kind of remember that it's the center of it, and then bump it out from there, and then eventually it should be able to be within the working area.
Yep, there you go. Or there you are, sir. Got it going. But yeah, that's probably what happened. Is it got moved?
Yep. Huh. That's an interesting little hack. In trying to engrave shot glasses, and the rotary chuck wouldn't fit it very well, but made a mold to hold it. So it's and that's one of the things I've seen people between 3D printers or even just laser cutting out some various fixtures for rotaries. There's a lot of people get kind of creative to make fixtures to support different things. And if you're doing, if you're going to be doing multiples of those, definitely worth the time for that. But haven't thought about making a mold before. And Victor's talking about a guy who took his laser on vacation and engraved seashells for memories. Yeah, I've seen people do that. You can engrave rocks with certain lasers, and so they'll go pick them up off the shore wherever they're at. They'll go drop them back in and see, someone comes along and sees a rock with a little message on it or something. Now I just try to put weird, funky fossils into rocks and drop them around places to make people wonder. just bury those. Eric's asking, any news on any new releases coming out that could be compared to the Atom Stack A70? I guess, if you're talking in power, I know a few places are working on them, or they've rumored to be working on them and such. But I know Atom Stack is actually taking some of the technology that they put on the A70, such as their new autofocus and some of the cable management, and they're making V2 versions of some of their earlier ones. So they'll have like a 40 watt that has the autofocus and the cable chain and some of those things in it. So we're seeing some of that trickle back. But yeah, I haven't heard specifically, but I imagine with Christmas coming sooner than we'd all like, you might start seeing some new releases. Otherwise, a lot of them like to bring them out just past the New Year as well. So they'll start teasing them and then be releasing them around. Well, a lot of times it's Chinese New Year, so something in February. But it's definitely been stuff that it's rapidly progressed over the past couple of years.
Well, I figure they're going to be coming out with some new ones pretty soon. But I know Atom Stack is doing some consolidation, rebranding, something other, uh, with some of their different machines and different websites and all that. So I'm kind of curious to see how that lands.
Yeah. Well, and I know we've talked about it, the difference between atomstack.com and atomstack.net. I kind of feel like they're flushing it out now. If I read it right, atomstack.net is taking over kind of the IKEA name, whereas atomstack.com is kind of sticking with the core atomstack machines.
Yeah,
Of course, with that IKEA side of things, uh, they've got both the Atom Stack, I think X series, as well as the IKEA machines, but they're also starting to promote two trees CNCs as well, desktop CNCs. So curious to see, does that help hinder indifferent the development of things there, or what? But definitely things bounce around a little bit. And I'm glad that at least maybe they'll have a little better delineation instead of like, which Atom Stack are we talking about?
yeah.
Jer's asking, have you ever tried engraving on a leaf? Um, I have not.
I'm
Um,
playing around with it.
I've seen some people do it. Now, I believe. I mean, I would think a diode should be able to
It will.
do it, but it's definitely going to be it's one of those things where no two leaves are going to be the same, so your settings are going to vary a little bit. So it's definitely going to be a little bit of a science to figure out your close settings, but also probably a little bit of trial and error on some, but I've seen some pretty cool things done on that.
Yeah.
Ralph's asking, any thoughts on the bamboo legal issues? So they're being sued for patent infringement by a company, what is it, Stratasys, who's been around for a while, and they do have some patents for older technology, but I don't know. It'll be interesting to see where this one lands because they're claiming a few different infringements that such as the textured heated build plate, the tree tower for the purging um, of the filament color changes and such. I forget what the third one is, and who knows? Part of their issue is going to be sometimes patents get approved that when they get reviewed, there's more evidence that maybe they shouldn't have been able to patent it because it was more public domain stuff that was previously done. There's also the argument that they have to defend it against anyone infringing. And so if they've let a lot of other companies get by with doing the same thing and they're only going after bamboo because they're the big rich player right now, that's not necessarily going to play well in their favor. Um, Either way, I feel this is going to take a little bit of time to work out. I mean, the suit just got filed, I think, this past week. It's probably going to be months before it even goes to trial, and corporate lawyers are really good at delaying and pushing those things out. Um, my personal take on it is it could go either way, but chances are they'll delay it enough to be able to kind of change their technology enough that it almost becomes they're either going to settle and come up with a licensing plan for it, or they'll just be like, all right, well, we're not going to use that anymore because we figured out a better way to do it. But we'll see. Um, it could shake down either way, where if they are able to enforce it and put restrictions on bamboo, that's definitely going to impact them and their costs, and it could impact other people, other companies trying to implement those technologies. Um, but yeah, I feel the burden is going to be on the other company who's, they've been developing high end, well, what they'd like to consider high end printers and keeping their price high. And their problem is now places like Bamboo are coming in with a very similar technology and grossly undercutting the cost of the machines. And so all their commercial clients that used to be able to spend $45,000 on a 3D printer are going, why would I do this when I can spend 1,500?
Yeah.
So I think I wouldn't worry about like jumping in, jumping in with bamboo and having it become a brick per se, because of two things. By the time this case settles, that technology is probably going to have moved on. That you've probably gotten your use out of your printer and you're ready to upgrade anyway. Um, much like these lasers, people worry about wearing them out, but if everything runs to spec and you've got 8 to 10,000 hours on that thing, you've either really gotten your money's worth out of it, or you're not going to reach that limit by the time you're ready to upgrade. So that's
Yeah.
just my viewpoint on it.
Andy's asking, are the two trees CNCs good for beginners? I haven't had one of the two trees CNCs, but from what I have seen, they look pretty comparable to a lot of the other CNCs. The ones that I have seen, and they may have others that aren't, but the ones that I've seen primarily from two trees had belts on them, and that would be only that's only one of the things that me personally I would prefer lead screws, and they may have one. I haven't, like I said, I haven't looked into them in a while, but I know a year or two ago when I was looking at the two tree stuff, a lot of theirs looked a lot like the lasers with the belts and tensioners and everything. So that would be that would be what I would look for if I was getting into it for the first time. I would try to. There's enough of them out there right now that have lead screws that I would go with screws over belts, personally.
Well, I think the
Not
one
that the
that
belts don't work, but
yeah, I think the one that IKEA website and also Two Trees is really pushing now is the TTC 450, and I believe when I looked at that, that does have lead screws on it. Um, so yeah, I haven't personally used one myself. It would be interesting to try out and see most of these desktop units in that price range, because we're looking, what is this one? I mean, it lists for $699, but it's on sale for $420. So um,
yeah,
most of these, if you're in the working area, being 460 by 460, so 18, 19 inches, is going to be, they're going to be good at you know using 1/8 inch bits. And so as long as you're okay with either the smaller size of the project or the longer time of it, it's they tend to be a good dip your toe into the water kind of deal. I don't want to necessarily recommend this one without ever like seeing it or talking to someone who has, but the things that they have on there, I think are decent. The lead screws are decent. The price is okay, um, but it's the CNCs are a little bit different beast. You have both control software as well as so you got CAM and you got CAD. The CAM is actually operating the machine. CAD is designing it. Um, so it's not quite as easy as, hey, I've got Lightburn that does both. I just drop things in here and send the information. Now there are things like Carbide Create and what's the other one? There's a couple that are pretty decent at also driving the engraver and more Lightburn esque. And who knows when, what is it, Milmage from Lightburn
yeah,
is supposed to come out. Those I think will help make it easier, but definitely do a little more digging into the software side of CNCs when you're looking at them to understand what you're getting into.
yeah. The software can be a pretty expensive investment for somebody if you don't pay attention to what you're doing. Ooh. I have gotten hooked on VCarve, which is weird because I started out using easel, and now I've got to where all I use is VCarve.
Um, yeah, uh, yeah. I mean that software is a bit of an investment, but um, it works pretty well once you get used to it. But yeah, it's just a different beast. Learning, yeah, Carveco. That's it, Brian. Um, some of those make it a little bit easier, but some of those are also like subscription based. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, Tom, the spindle too. A lot of them come with kind of a a very mild spindle. So that's something to look at is do they have bigger options, or preferably is it beefy enough and can it handle, your 65 millimeter trim routers when looking at those. That's where you really can make a difference, is having a beefier Z-axis and spindle on the CNC.
Yes, it is. Ooh,
And
my legs still sore.
Andy's easel, yeah, that's another one that's decent. I mean, I think some of those you get in there, they have like a $10 to $15 a month, kind of subscription fee for them, and some of those are limited to a certain size and other things, but they help ease into it. But I quickly ended up on VCarve for my stuff, which again was an investment, but it made it a lot easier with the machines I was working with. So, but coming up on 1 hour, so it's a good time to plug the laser map in the Facebook group and such.
Yes, sir.
So we've talked about this before, but we have a laser engraving community group on Facebook. So that's a good way to interact with people both from the live stream, and Dave and I try to jump in there, and there's a few others from, even some other content creators that are on there. We try to keep it to, answering, asking questions, sharing ideas. Try to keep the promotion and the sales pitch to a minimum on any of that stuff. But it's kind of a nice way where people can actually share photos if they're trying to troubleshoot things, or they want to share a project they've been working on. So the links down to that in both of our videos. And also through that, as well as these live streams, we've got a laser engraver community map. There's links to that below as well. And there's a form you can fill out, put in your name, your business name, whatever that you want to be known by. And then doesn't need to be your actual address, but like a city, state, city, country kind of thing. Just so we can drop a pin on for where everybody's at. And it's kind of fun to see that map fill out over the past year. It's been going for about 9 months now, I think, that we got it going. And we're up over, I think, 500 pins already. So always love to see that, and reminds me I should double check it for any additional responses that need to be dropped in the map. So,
Yep. Well, have a good night, Miss Sharon. How are you? We'll see you next week, or if not before then. Hopefully, I'll have a chance to get some stuff out this week. I have been running. It's been busy. Going out of town and then getting to where I wasn't quite 100%, a little under the weather. It has really, really hindered me this week. I need to get in here and crank some stuff out and get some space cleared up, because I know I got other machines coming.
speaking of other content creators, we got Ryan from R. Ballard Designs. And if you're into CNCs as well as lasers and 3D printers, they also have, I think, a Saturday afternoon, evening live stream podcast where they talk about a lot of things similar to what we do here. So definitely check them out, and great to see you here tonight. And I'll be curious. I think every year they also host like a Christmas challenge around CNCs. So Ryan, you'll have to let us know if you're doing that again, and maybe we can encourage some people to join in on that.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, have you tried that wireless device on the new 4040?
I was going to. It's supposed to be supported, but I have. I'll try that out maybe tomorrow when I get the router running.
Yeah, I was kind of interested to see if it works with this particular model, because that might be something somebody be interested in.
Yeah, definitely. definitely is a nice way to run these smaller desktop machines with that little wireless controller. The biggest thing I found, and I think I talked about this in my video on it, is you can control it, you can start jobs from your phone, you can monitor it that way, but you got to transfer the files from your computer to your phone. And so I was just using my Apple file storage for that. So
Yeah.
that way I could just drop it into a folder on my desktop that I have synchronized to that, and then I can browse it on my phone.
Well, Rob, I went yesterday morning and was going to attempt to go fishing, and had a little bit of a slip and twist and fall at the boat ramp, and somehow or another, I don't know, I don't know how it happened, but somehow or another, I got myself in a position to where as I was falling backwards, somehow I managed to tear, rip, destroy, whatever you want to call it, the muscle in the front of my thigh, and it felt like I got shot, like it hurt, and I heard like a popping noise. So of course, we ended up having to go to the hospital and let them look at it, make sure that nothing had detached or anything like that. But from what they can tell, and from what we're hoping, is that I just tore the muscle a little bit, and that it will slowly heal itself back up if I stay off of it and give it a chance. So far today, it's better. I still can't use it like I used to could, but it's not throbbing. It's not hurting. The swelling's kind of moved around, and it's just hopefully it'll be better. So yeah, my fishing trip yesterday morning was a bust. I wound up having to come back and go get an X-ray done and all that. But yeah, I let my feet get tangled up underneath me in that slimy boat ramp, and that was all she wrote. But hopefully it'll be better. Well, look, the doctor basically said there's nothing in there that could be broken as long as it's not tore too bad, and with there not being any kind of deformation in the muscle or anything like showing. She said she felt like it just needed some ice and elevation and all that good stuff. I see that. Y'all trying to make fun of me. I can't argue that. But now,
Yeah.
in my defense, I had on tennis shoes. I don't know why. That stuff was just so slimy. And when my foot started sliding on that boat ramp, and I was trying to get my other feet under me, and I got so twisted up, and somehow or another, as I'm falling, that leg was like, basically holding all 220 something pounds up until it couldn't anymore, and it said pow, and when it popped, I hit the ground, and I almost couldn't get up. Like it hurt. Oh my gosh, it hurt. And of course, I'm worried more about my back because I just had a back surgery a year ago, so I'm like, oh my gosh, I've done something to my back. But luckily, it wasn't my back. It's just that that quadricep muscle or whatever. Apparently, there's two muscles that are like banded together. They're in there, and if you stretch them, it like stretches one of them to the point where it'll flip over to the side of the other one, and when it comes off, apparently it makes a really loud popping noise, according to what I've been reading, and it makes it really, really sore. I had to drive with my left foot coming home on the brake pedal because I couldn't pick my foot up to go from gas to brake. So, but yeah. But it's doing better today. So.
Yeah, well, if those boat ramps are anything like they are up here, especially this time of year after the algae and everything else has been able to grow a little more in the lake, they get a bit.
It was as if an owl had been sitting there for a while. If you know what I mean?
Yeah. So, but hey, like they say, bad day of fishing beats a good day of work. So,
it was rough though.
Maybe not ending up at the hospital. And also,
well, I don't normally go, but with the problem with the back and with hearing the popping and all that, I was like, oh, surely I haven't messed something up. But when I got up there, she said they felt really seriously felt that it was a severe sprain or whatever. I didn't realize that you could do it, but she said that it's pretty common with most of the time athletic injuries, not necessarily trying to walk in a boat ramp, but yeah, but we got it doing better, and I have been taking anti-inflammatories and have taken a little muscle relaxers because anytime you damage a muscle like that, it'll start trying to spasm on you. So I've been having to take those muscle relaxers to keep it from cramping. But other than that, it appears to be doing better. So we'll back up and punt, try to go fishing again this next weekend, hopefully. So
Cool. But
yeah,
Ryan
I'm not getting
did,
old.
did let us know their Christmas challenge is going to start in 109 days, and so definitely check that out. And I believe they get some good prizes going. Like I think Cody supports them with some bits in the past, and maybe some other cool items from other manufacturers. So it's kind of a fun thing. Just I believe I believe it's open to not just CNCs but lasers and such as well to kind of make your own holiday themed item, and you can submit photos or you can even do a video if you want. So it's always fun. Every time I look and think about it, I get stuck in my head, and I'd be doing the project like on Christmas Eve. So,
Yeah.
but maybe this year we'll jump in on that. But otherwise, definitely check that out. And it sounds like we could have had some good video of your whole incident, but someone turned the
Uh,
camera off.
well, that wouldn't have been a good video. It was just that trip was snake bit from the word go. But
Yeah.
yeah, but I'm just glad that I'm able to walk today because yesterday I wasn't sure I was going to be able to walk today. So it's not as bad as it could have been. I'm just a tough old bird. What can I say?
Sounds like Mark's having fun with his Bamboo A1. Put it a top mount for the AMS and had to heat set the knurled nuts. So it came out great. And yeah, and that's one of the things. Sometimes it's just accessories that you print out. I've made kind of star knob style nuts for off of a CNC as well as a 3D printer, and so it can be just like a little bit of add on to your project. So it's fun using the tools both for I've seen a lot of people who just say, well, all they're good for is just printing out little cheap toys and whatnot. And any toy. I mean, if our lasers, you could just say, well, all it's good for is just engraving photos and such. So you gotta look at it as a tool, what it can do for you, and sometimes that just means printing out different things, playing around with it till you're inspired to make some of your own stuff. So
Yeah. Well, I used mine again to not only did I make my cover for a sonar, but I needed a little piece for my live well to keep shad and stuff from going down in the pipe. So I made me a little slip over, like basically like just a restrictor to slide over. I'm gonna see how well it works. That way I don't get shad stuck in the pipes on the live well.
cool.
But
Gonna have to.
I gotta get me a machine where I can start printing something other than PLA and PETG though, because I don't know how long that stuff's gonna hold up. But I'll let you know because
Yeah.
I'm using PLA right now and it's working. So
Yep. Well, we'll see on that. I ordered some TPU as well, and that just showed up the other day. So that's more of that flexible filament.
yeah,
So
the old
it's gonna,
basketball,
well,
airless
it's gonna,
basketball.
yeah, I mean, there's some fun things like that, but with my whole RC background and such, there's a lot of cool, cool things you can do with like mini crawlers and such, and little FPV crawlers, and even like little skid steers and things. But being able to print out, the tires and the tracks for that'll be kind of fun to
Cool.
play with as well. But that'll have to be a winter project, maybe with one of the boys.
Yeah. Dave Dark said he's got a A1
Yeah.
coming soon, as well as an X2 S1. Yeah, you may want to buy a building. Keep going.
I mean, depending on I've seen some of those storage auctions and such, and some people they find some finds, but you're not going to go through everything. Go through everything really well. Make sure everything's uh, running right and whatnot. That's kind of the thing. Like with buying buying a used CNC or a used laser, sometimes you can get a good deal, but sometimes you inherit someone else's problems. So just make sure it's a really good deal anytime you're looking at
Steve, Michael's wanting you to post the link to the Christmas
that.
challenge.
I will post. It's gonna let me get Ryan's channel. We'll share that out because they do a weekly live stream, and it'll be coming up, and they'll announce it on that. But I'll get that out there, and we'll drop that in the chat. This is your time to entertain people while I look this up.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking up something too. Y'all got
We can't both do it at the same time.
Y'all been talking about me getting old, and y'all got me all messed up anyway. My sinuses are still jacked up. I told my wife it's been one of them weeks. This has just been one of them weeks. I just can't get my feet back under me like they need to be. So we'll see.
All right. So I will drop this. Sorry, this might not get to everybody in Facebook land, but I will drop it in a couple of areas. It'll get most of you. But if you follow Ryan, R. Ballard Designs, they do their weekly. It's called Make It Up As We Go, CNC laser 3D printing, and so they run those Christmas challenges. And Dave Gatton used to do that as well, but I think he's kind of semi-retired from that and just comes on as a guest. So Ryan's been continuing it such, but more good content, more fun stuff. Check it out there.
Yeah.
And as I see it, I'll try to remind us as we get closer when they actually have more information out on it.
Gerard's asking, interested in getting into a 3D printer. I have no experience. What would you recommend? There's a lot of good printers out there. I just went from an Ender 3, version 2, S1, Neo, whatever, over to the Bamboo Labs A1, and I will tell you, the Bamboo Labs is with all the self-calibration, self-leveling, and everything. I have been running it, and so far I have not had a bad print with it yet. Everything has looked good, and to me, the A1 or the A1 Mini, if you're just wanting to do real small stuff, is really all you would need. But it takes the guesswork out of it, so it's hard for me to really. After working with the Creality Ender for almost 6-8 months or so, and doing everything I did to it to try to get it to work better, and then just getting the Bamboo, opening up the box, and it working better than the Creality did after I worked on it for 6 months, I'm sold when it comes to Bamboo. It's the lack of knowledge needed. I mean, because as long as you know how to put it together, follow the book, and then follow the instructions on initializing the machine, download the files, and use their software to slice it and everything, it's very, very forgiving as far as if you don't know what you're doing. So it's hard for me to go any other way, which I've only had the Creality and now the Bamboo. But if I had it to do over again, I'd bought the Bamboo to start with.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I put up my video on the A1 and the A1 Mini week ago or so to kind of give you my initial thoughts and how it's working, and that's just it for getting started. It's so much easier, and even if you do run into some issues, they prop up on the touchscreen. They pop up like a QR code saying, "Hey, this malfunctioned, or this is erroring out. Here's a QR code. Check the wiki to how to resolve it." So they have some pretty slick built-in support that gets you closer to the information faster. And sometimes it's just as simple as like, hey, it's time to oil the rails and such. So it's pretty nice, forgiving. I've had one print fail, and I can't discount that it may have been the cat. because they have been quite interested in the things, and they like to hop up on areas. So um, even so, I was playing around with some silk PLA, which tends to be a little less forgiving, and printing out a basket. It actually had a couple areas where it kind of failed, but it even recovered. So there's like a gap in the sidewall of this mesh, this basket, but it kind of recovered. So yeah, it's I they're one of the easiest ones that I've used. Um, so I don't have a problem recommending to people who want to play around, especially the A1 Mini. At I think it's still on sale for $199. I mean, that's a couple movies with the family.
Yeah.
By the time you pay for tickets and popcorn, it's,
Well, Valley, you need to go ahead and get you one over there, Eric. Go ahead and step off in there. While you're at it, get yourself a CNC too.
you're just trying to be a big L enabler, huh?
Yeah, hey, the more bad habits you have in your shop, the better. The more fun it is. But yeah, if we can get Eric to get him a 3D printer and a CNC set up over there, man, he'd be down.
Um, yeah, Jim, a friend of mine has an anchor make and has really liked it. I think they're comparable, definitely, to some of the bamboo A1 printers and such. So definitely another option to look at, and they are available on Amazon if you're an Amazon shopper, whereas bamboo is pretty much just direct. But yeah, there's a few that have really been pushing the envelope on that, but bamboo has really kind of taken over the 3D printing world for, I'd say, the past year and a half, 2 years, as far as the one to beat. And anchor make ones are ones that they're pushing that. Creality's got some as well, that are coming out like that. But yeah, it's made it so much easier. In my video, I put a little snippet of my original printer bot that I built, and just watching that video where it just kind of like slugged along slowly. It was a painful reminder of what it used to be.
Yeah. Fred, I'm not sure which machines you're talking about, man. Uh, the only Mon port I have in my shop using right now is the Galvo fiber right there, MOPA. It's a 30 watt. But
Yeah, Ryan. A lot of them are really getting better, but and if you don't mind the cloud nature of their software, and the China roots with Bamboo, it's really slick being able to just log into my account on any device, pull down my profiles, look at my print history, start a job remotely, all that stuff. It's working a lot better than even some of the other similar ones that I've played with in the past year. But we'll see. I mean, I've only had these about a month now. I've been trying to run them as much as I can between useful things and just random. Like, there's so many files out there just to play with. I have been playing around. Russ sent me some ideas on light boxes, a pretty cool NASA one, and so I'm printing these out to get the idea. Then I'm going to try to make some of my own designs with that, and so it's a whole new, opens up with the multicolor with the AMS, opens up some ideas when in the more decorative arena. So
yeah. Fred's asking about the Monport 80 watt. I guess he's talking about CO2. I don't.
okay, I'll stop clicking.
I was going to say, are we clicking the same one? I thought I was unclicking it, but I don't have a Monport 80 watt. If you're talking about the CO2, but I got a buddy that does, and he seems to like his. I have ran his machine, and it runs pretty well. But I think under the hood, a lot of these machines are very, very similar. There's not a whole lot of differences. So. All right, well, I guess that's it. I was waiting on you to click, see what you was going to click there. before I
Oh,
take that one
sorry.
off. Before I took
I
that
was,
one off,
I
I didn't
told, I
want to take it
told that
off.
I was going to step away. I was hands off the keyboard, man.
But yeah, but I'm digging the bamboos. So I will say that it's a big difference from what I'm using now versus what I was using.
Yeah. Well, Robbie, you just you got to make her a few things. You know, just gotta gotta keep them happy too. And when they find your toys are useful tools, uh, things go well. But now if you're taking over the dining room table with your machines, I can't really help you there. But
Yeah, my wife is now wanting more projects. She showed me one today that she wants me to design. And I'm trying to decide if I want to do a CNC project with it, a laser project, or a 3D printing project. Because I can do it in all three methods, but I don't know which one I would rather do for the use that she's gotten that she's wanting to use it for. So
sure.
that's what I'm working on. Trying to decide how I'm going to go about that. Be right back.
So Gerard asking what programs there to design parts on a 3D printer. So any sort of 3D modeling software that can export as like an STL is going to work. So uh, a lot of people will jump to like Fusion 360 if they're already working with it in some things. But there are um, free versions of other stuff. As a matter of fact, Autodesk has their online Tinkercad, which allows you to create 3D models and then export it sometimes directly to certain 3D printers and such. And so I do plan on. That's one of the things I'm going to hopefully get done in the next couple of weeks. Is I want to show creating a couple of things. So, for example, I need to make a couple of holders for my Lasermatic. I want to put the focus tool and maybe the USB drive on the side. So we'll make that, and then also someone Noel was asking about how to make jigs. I'll try to touch on that as well because I've done that for the F1 making a pencil jig. I'll try to play around with that one, but that's just one of many. So like Tom there's just saying Onshape is another free one, runs in the browser. SketchUp is also has a browser based one that will do some 3D stuff, but they're a little less native to. I think when you export their STLs, they're more faces instead of actual solids. So sometimes that trips up some slicers and such. But yeah, there's a few different softwares for it that are free, and then there's a lot more professional level 3D modeling tools that you can use as well.
There's you another one. Can 3D printers be used inside? There you
Uh, yes, asterisk. It's going to depend on the filament as well as your sensitivity. I mean, you are melting plastic. Now, PLA tends to be a plant-based one, and it's um, a little less concern about the fumes and the vapors from it. But when you get into things like ABS, those tend to be a little more health hazard wise, and you want to have more of an enclosure and maybe a way to filter that. But ABS also is a little more picky about temperatures, and so you actually need to have it in a more of a heated chamber and such. So, um, yeah, it's something that um, it's an asterisk. It depends, but as you're just starting out, if you're just running PLA, that's it's pretty safe to run. It's pretty forgiving on it wants the heated bed for that first layer adhesion. And then if it cools down too much, it would be an issue, but it tends to be okay, just open air. I run it in my office down in the basement. I've run them, demonstrating them for people literally on dining room tables in the past as well, running PLA. But when you get into some other filaments, that's when you start needing to have them more in an enclosure.
go. Yeah.
But and yeah, Ryan, we'll connect with you on that. We bring some people on from time to time to chat about what they're doing and such. So let's uh, let's get in touch about that. Love to have you on sometime.
But yeah, talking about printing inside, I've used mine in the house so far with PLA, and I can't smell it or anything, so it doesn't seem to bother us. But like I said, that's all I've been using is PLA in it. My wife knows when it's running because it makes that weird little
Yeah,
whatever, like
they are
Atari
musical.
noise.
I think you can turn that off, but you can also, they have on their website, they have a MIDI file, so you can actually pick your song in a MIDI file and then send it to the printer and it'll play that music.
I started a print the other day before I came home because I was like, if I go ahead and print it now, it'll be done by the time I get home. And I started it, and Brady was like, "Yeah, I heard your machine over there singing, so it sounded like some video game or something."
Yeah, yeah. um, Gerard, yeah, the garage. It depends. So it's not, if it's like a woodworking garage like in here. No, you'd want to have it in an enclosure to keep the dust off it. Otherwise, you're going to be fighting that. Um, and temperatures. I wouldn't want to run a 3D printer when it's super cold out. So it does it's got to heat up the end the extruder. It's got to heat up the bed for adhesion, and any cold, extreme cold is going to be making it work harder, which is going to add some wear and tear to your printer, and then you may have more failures if it starts getting cold spots. If it's a typical semi-clean garage where you don't have a lot of sawdust and other things, sure, you could put it out there. But yeah, it's something I feel fine just putting it on. I have like a little IKEA shelf kind of thing that the printer sits on. It's stable enough. It was cheap enough, and these are quiet enough that they don't really, other than the music when it's starting and stopping, they really don't bother too many people. So. And then yeah, as Dark Force was saying, the humidity. So the filament over time will absorb that humidity, and that will cause it to start extruding poorly and failing. So, um, when you're not using it, it's good to put it back in the bags. Maybe put a desiccant pack in there. But they also make filament dryers to help take the moisture out of them if they've been sitting out for a while. I have fairly good luck with the stuff in my basement. The humidity level seems to stay pretty consistent. It's not spiking up real high. Um, and I mean, I've seen it over time get a little brittle and but that's like, I haven't used it in a year plus. So
Jeffrey Lapierre wants to say thanks. Finally got a good engrave on the Christmas ornament. So
awesome.
cool.
Glad you found some settings that work for that.
Yeah, yeah, that can drive you nuts sometimes. But
Yeah, resin 3D printers are a whole nother beast. Um, between the, I mean, you're having to wear gloves with that stuff. You got to cure them. They smell a bit as well. Yeah, they're great for fine detail work if you're into like creating like molds for jewelry, or fine detailed figurines for tabletop gaming, things like that. They're pretty, they're hard to beat. But yeah, they're a whole nother they're a whole nother thing to learn.
yes, that's what I heard. You got to dry those things. So
Well,
let them cure.
you got to UV cure them, so either setting outside or that does it for a
Something happened with your
box.
audio.
My audio,
Oh, it's better now.
okay.
I don't know. For a second there, it's like you fell down a hole for a second. It may have been on my end.
But yeah, it's you gotta have a UV curing setup for those, which could be as simple as a LED box with some reflecting and then a turntable. But I was gonna do that. I was playing around with one for a while, but it was a bit fickle. It It was an inexpensive unit I bought on Black Friday from Longer, I believe, a few years ago, and it was interesting. But there again, I was getting frustrated with failed prints, and then having to clean them up and remove supports and wearing gloves and rinsing them. It was just seemed really, really fickle and messy for what I was doing.
It's just you didn't find it entertaining and fun.
Yeah, sometimes when you run into some frustrations on something you don't really need to be working on, it's easy to kind of go, well, that was interesting. Let's go do something else.
Oh yeah. Oh, trust me. There's times where I'm like, you know what? No, I'll just move on.
Yeah.
Gerard wanting to learn know what software he could play with to learn, and I would say definitely you got to use one of the free softwares, like what Tinkercad or some of the other less expensive ones at least.
Yeah, I would start with some of the free online ones to kind of get an idea of it, play around with that. So, Tinkercad is one that's free to try out, um, and OnShape is another one you can play with. Otherwise, you can jump into the Fusion 360 side if you want to be able to do that for 3D printing, also CNC and things like that. But there's some limitations there if you don't pay for it.
Yeah. Well, the oh crap, never mind. I about my lost my train of thought there. Had a moment. Oh, the thing about it is with the 3D printers though, even until you learn how to do the designs, there's enough free downloads, whether it be Thingiverse or the Bamboo Labs store or whatever, that you can download stuff that's already made to play with. That, I mean, unless it's just a specific part that you need, a lot of times it's just as easy to just run out there and grab it off the internet and download it. That's what I did with a lot of the parts that I've made with mine so far.
Yeah,
I do want to get me a 3D scanner though. I want to try one of those out.
Yeah, I'd love to see one that is not hideously expensive that works well enough.
Yeah,
So
that's
if you
the
find
problem.
one, let us all know.
That's the problem I've got. The ones that I've seen that I think would do a good job are a little more expensive than what I want to spend on one right now. I think the Creality ones, some of the newer ones look okay, but it looks like I need to be in like the $5,000 range to be able to get the results that I'm wanting to get, and I just don't know if I'm that dedicated to it yet. I just don't see it. I can't justify the expense because I'm not going to be doing a whole lot of scanning and printing for money necessarily. But if I got the equipment and I could do a good enough job with it, then maybe I could. So you never know. We'll see.
Well, Craig, great to hear that the workaround on the Acer homing worked for you, and glad you're back and running on that. So it reminds me I need to pull out my IKEA and Acer and double check some of the
Yeah.
autofocus issues I was having and see if between that and a couple of the things I've learned, if I can make them a little more reliable.
Yeah. I haven't used Aspire for 3D printing, for CNCs, but can you? Can
I
you use it
mean,
for 3D printers?
I mean, you to a point, yeah, because you can export the STLs from there. So if you've got it, I wouldn't necessarily buy it for that,
Yeah.
because there's other software that's far less money and able to import into the slicers a lot easier. But yeah, those Thingiverse printables, the Bamboo, their online file sharing. If you can't find it there, um, you've got something unique, and you'll want to design it. But there's so many things out there that whenever I've thought of something, I've been able to just go out and find someone's made. I mean, even my wife with her photography stuff, she'll send me links like, "Hey, I saw this. Can you print it out for me?" Because it's some weird adapter for some film camera from 20 years ago, and people are making the models and sharing them out there. So
Yeah.
a lot of lot. It's nice to see people sharing that stuff out there. So. Is there a good gold for doing trophy toppers for 3D printer? There are some. So that kind of gets into the silk PLA. It it does have a bit of nice shine and whatnot to it. It also can be a little finicky. Now I have had good luck with the A1 Mini printing out a couple things in silk PLA. I've out of the 3 or 4 things I've tried, only one has failed. Um, one fa- one of them failed. I was coming up to the end of the roll, so I was just throwing random jobs at it, and I found this little cam chip clip. So I printed one of those out, and my wife did break that today. But that's PLA slash silk PLA. It was not exactly the best medium for making a chip clip out of. But yeah, there are the silk and the kind of the metallic looking ones um, that are a pretty decent representation for it. Dark Forest says they've been trying to find the Acer P10 P20 extension kit. Seems to be a rare bird now. Yeah, I don't know how much they're supporting the original ones at this point, but because they've kind of moved to their L2 series.
Yeah. I hadn't been looking on none of the sale sites lately for that.
So
Oh man.
you'd almost have to hit the someone bought it and never used it kind of thing.
Yeah.
But well, no, it's if it was 2:30 in the morning, I'd probably be going to bed too. But thanks for joining us, and hope to see you again next week.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it on Amazon or anywhere. So yep, not seeing it. I'm like you. It's gonna be one of those things we're gonna get lucky and find a slightly used one or something, probably.
So yeah, Dark Forces mentioning Open Builds has their whole library available for 3D printing, and yeah, that's a company, and actually that was one of the that was the second CNC machine I had was based off of an Open Builds kit and plans, and so they've been a fun company over the years that has kind of bridged that gap between here's a kit to build or here's just like the various key parts and then sharing, like they'd share out the files for the end plates that need to be milled, but they would sell you the extrusion and all kind of like the stock parts kind of stuff. So it's always nice when a company is not like completely controlling everything and they're willing to, you know, give you the parts to be able to do a little bit of it yourself and or be able to, make replacement parts yourself. So. But
You notice I got a cat sleeping on top of the Lasermatic.
it's a good thing that's a sturdy frame.
Yeah. Well, she loves that machine for some reason. She'll get it right there and lay down. But yeah.
That's I like that laser. I mean, I think that lid is pretty sturdy. I've seen other similar ones to it that I'm not sure I'd want my chunkier cat sitting on top of.
Yeah.
I feel like it might flex to the breaking point.
Yeah, that one there, if you're gonna put a cat on top of something, that one's not the one that you want testing stuff that's real thin because she's chunky.
Yep. Yep. But anyway, got a few more minutes left. If people have questions or comments, let us know. If we've missed your question, drop it back in. Sometimes the conversation gets going, the chat gets going, and we miss some of them. We try to get to as many as we can, but some of them just fly
Well,
by.
hopefully I'm going to get my energy level back up this week and I can get some more stuff done. But it's just been bad couple of weeks for me. I was gone for a week and then came back and just haven't had my head in the game since I got back. So
Mm,
I've got to get some stuff going.
yeah,
It's been
yeah,
a little rough.
that can be tough. I've been trying to. I actually spent part of today trying to, like I mentioned earlier, I was going through the stack on the wall over here, and some of that has been relegated to firewood now. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's just some of it I picked up a bundle of it, and you know how it is. Like some of it's spalted and some of it's beyond spalted. It's a little punky, but trying to get some stuff moved around. I'm actually thinking long term I might rotate things in here a little bit. It'll actually help out with where I have some of my electrical circuits and just the layout of trying to. It seems like a constant thing. If you're not making projects in the shop, you're trying to improve the shop and the workflow. So,
Or trying to run around, figure out what you can get rid of to make room.
well, that too, yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
so yeah. I've been doing a little bit of that while it's kind of nice, but no, that's I'm glad you reminded me. I do need to crack that thing open and see if something's up with it. Luckily, the A40 or the X is it X40 X40 Max that I was using has the good the good pump, where I think it's the A70, that one that was a little noisy from last week. So I will have to crack that open. But I know other people have asked me about cover lenses for the smaller size, and I do have a bundle in um, that I'm going to see how they fit in a few different models and how they work. So I did just pop one into the A24 Pro from Atom Stack. These were actually just about a millimeter narrower in diameter, but it seemed to fit okay. So we'll see. But I also did find another place on Amazon that has some cover lenses um, that look to be about the right size. And I think they were like three for about $15, $16. So not, I mean, I would love to still get them down a little bit more, but maybe if those work, it's at least an option I can recommend to people. Because I know, especially as we're coming up on the busy holiday season, that's usually when I see a lot of orders for cover lenses. And people are trying to keep their machines
Yeah.
going, and so if I can't supply them, I want to make sure I have a supply that people can use for keeping their lasers going. But I'll be testing these, and if they work, I know a couple of people have reached out to me. I might have a few others test them as well and see if I can at least offer them for sub.
Yeah, because you know how it is. Those things will always go out when you least need it to.
Yeah, at the worst time. So
Yep. I thought I was having problems with one the other day, but it wasn't. It was me. It was just me being dumb. I took my machine apart, cleaned it, put it back in there, and was the next job I did. I was running it, and it was burning everything. And I'm like, man, my lens must be bad. Yeah, come to find out, I'd accidentally unplugged the air assist hose.
that'll make a difference.
When I was cleaning it, I had unplugged the air assist and never plugged it back in.
Yep.
Yep. But good news is I cleaned everything lens related. Got nice and clean and back in service.
Good stuff.
But
Yeah.
yeah. So what if other than yeah.
I was gonna say, been there, done that with some things. I actually right now I'm interrogating my cats because my Raycon earbuds, the case and all, I don't know where they've gone to, and I know they like to hop up on my desk and my workbenches if I leave things open, and they'll randomly run off with things. So
Mm.
I love them, but they're also can be a pain.
Well, these guys don't seem to mess with stuff like that. Now they will bring dead animals in here and set them in the floor or hide them somewhere. And the only way I find them is because I'm like, what is that odor coming from my shop? And so I
Yeah.
start looking and I'll find like a mouse or a half-eaten squirrel or a half-eaten bird somewhere.
Yep. Yep. I hear you.
So I had to watch out for that.
Fred's asking what backup parts are suggested to have for CO2 laser. Well, I mean, spare focus lenses are definitely something, and actually, you can. That's one of the nice things about most CO2s. Maybe not some of the specialty ones like the P2, but you can actually get different focal lengths of lenses, and that will change your focus spot size, but it also sometimes will give you a longer focal length so that you can cut deeper, but you might lose quality if you're doing engravings. So definitely having backup lenses there are good to have. But depending on your make of your laser, you may also want to have on hand some things such as uh, spare e-stop switches. Um, and also, I had some spare barrel switches, but you got to check to make sure you're getting the right kinds because in these Chinese machines, sometimes those wiring and those switches are just, they're not up to the number of, you know, on off cycles. Um, and so they're a simple wiring thing can have you. Boy, I just have a bunch of e-stop switches, but those are a couple of things that I've had in there. Is both the power switch and the e-stop switch have failed. You want to make sure you get the right style, but it's good to have those on hand so you can swap them out. If you can, you might want to find the type of belts. If it's belt driven, have some of that on hand in case they get messed up or dried or cracked. And then the mirrors. It's good to have a spare set of mirrors because whether it's you missed a speck while it's cleaning and then the beam hits it and etches it on there or whatnot, those things can go bad on you and wear out as well. So I wouldn't go so far as having a spare tube. The tubes don't like to sit and not be used. So maybe research a few places where you can get a spare tube in case you need one. Um, that a place that hopefully can deliver it in a fair time. Um, but other than that, you could go down the whole rabbit hole of that as far as what you should have. I mean, some people will have spare steppers and everything else, but I try to the more reasonable things, switches, mirrors, lenses. Those are more of the typical things I've had to do with mine.
Yeah, I use Fusion, but I will tell you that it's expensive and there is a pretty good learning curve with it.
Well, they do have a free version, but it is limited to the certain number of what is it like the certain number of files you can have, uh, and then I don't know. They're and then anytime there's a free version of heavily commercial software like that, I'm always leery of them changing what is free on it. So
Mm-hmm.
hmm, interesting, Sam, that they got a laser that big, just that big and that powerful, and just do tumblers with it.
I
Although,
was going
I
to say,
mean,
especially an epilogue, that thing ain't cheap.
no, they're not. But I mean, if you're moving Yeti tumblers through it and making money, although I guess if it's just for employees, I don't know. I know a lot of people who they'll find that niche of tumblers or just hats or something, and they can make it well. But yeah, that's you know it's easy to say bigger is better, but sometimes then you find out, well, I only need 25% of the space that I use 90% of the time. So
Yeah. Well, I've actually turned out just in engraving the tumblers. I didn't have to purchase them. But, past couple of weeks, I've done two pretty good sized jobs on the S1 over here. And I like doing them as long as it's not like a bunch of random colors, which it has been being with this particular job. But so far, I've got the settings figured out to where I know all I have to do is like 2 power and speed changes to do pretty much every color, and so I've been turning those out pretty good. And like I said, when those jobs come in, especially those bulk orders like that, it helps. It helps support the shack.
Mm-hmm. Wow, they use it just for employees and playing around. Well, that's it'd be nice to nice to work for a place that can just throw that kind of change around on something for employees to have fun. But working
Yeah.
for a public university, that's highly frowned upon.
Yes, sir. Well, I don't have room for nothing that big here in my shop, but if I did, I'd make more than tumblers on it probably.
Yeah, Ryan clarified that Fusion 360, you can have 10 open projects, but you can make them read only to open new ones, and then so you're playing the shell game a little bit. And for a lot of people, just doing it as a hobby, that's probably plenty. Um, but if you're doing it for a business, you might want to figure out how to make it pay for itself and be
Yeah.
able to use the full one. But yeah, it's something you can play around and get started with. And see how it works for you without having to shell out a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If someone would have been hired sooner, they might have gotten one, but they weren't. So,
Well,
anyway, well, we've got a little under 10
8
minutes
minutes.
left. So, if you got any final questions, comments, or suggestions, we got some earlier where people are curious about, and there's been a lot of discussion about 3D development software. So, like I said, I have it on my list of videos to do a little more uh, getting started with, at least with Tinkercad, maybe touch on SketchUp a little bit to give some people ideas of how the different softwares work and such. Hopefully, push you down the rabbit hole a little bit to start playing. But we always appreciate getting feedback on what you guys would like to see or learn or hear or whatnot, and we try to make it happen because content you want to see, it makes it easier.
Yeah. Speaking of which, just today, this is that little file I was devising for the boat. So I did a little bit of videoing with it, trying to get it like I wanted it,
Cool.
and yeah. So I may or may not. There it is. I may or may not end up doing a video with it. We'll see. I don't know, but that's what I ended up coming up with. I still would like to have a little more control over those, but I don't want to make it too small of holes because I'm afraid it'll obstruct too much water. Because this is actually a drain that's made that sticks up inside the live well and just lets the water flow down in it and drain out. So, but yeah, that was what I did today, playing around.
Cool.
And I try to screen grab when I can, just in case I decide to go back and do a video. But a lot of times, you know how it is. You're busy. It's like I don't have time for the video right now, but I'll go ahead and grab the footage just in case later I do have time. So we'll
Yeah.
see how that goes.
Yeah. It's nothing worse than kind of getting 3/4 into a project and go, I really should have videoed some of this.
Yeah, yeah. But if the piece works like I want it to, I may go back and do a video on it. Then we'll see.
Yeah. Samuel, I picked up a couple because I do, speaking of things on my list, wanted to kind of test a few different ones. And I think OhmTech is one of the ones I was getting. I was trying to get, I know X Tool came out with their branded marking spray as well. I was trying to get them to throw some in so I could throw that into the mix, but haven't seen that yet. Maybe I'll just have to buy it. But yeah, I'm going to try to do that and try it on a few different mediums, glass, stainless steel, maybe brass or copper. and then also a few different machines, from diodes, CO2, maybe fiber, to show what it does and doesn't work with, or what it maybe works better with. And if we can do a little bit of durability testing between the few, we'll see. But I have a few on hand between Surmark, Brilliance, and I think Ohm Tech maybe is another one I have. I'll have to double check. So, but yeah, I've got the Brilliance stuff. I've got the Surmark on hand, and I think Ohm Tech is the third one that I've got. But so we'll try to get that out and help understand what it can work well for, or maybe how the different ones work. And if there's a budget one that works just as well as the expensive Surmark, I'm sure people would love to know that.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I don't use it very often, but I have just gotten stuck using what I've got, and I like it. Not saying I wouldn't change, but like I said, right now it's just that's my go-to. But I think a lot of them the ingredients are going to be very similar. So I would be interested to see the test that you did. It actually might help me decide to go with something a little more economical. You never know.
Yeah. Well, that's just it. I mean, Surmark has been kind of the standard for the years, and it is, they they like to get paid in gold for how many few ounces you get for it, but yeah, a little bit goes a long way, and you can factor that into your, if you're doing it for business, you just factor it into the cost of the job. If you're doing it personally, it would the small can lasts a long time if you're not doing a whole lot. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's one of those things that it's a little you choke a little bit buying it one time, but then you realize it lasts quite a while. So, but sounds like people are interested in that, so I'll try to bump that up on the list of things I need to get done.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, I got to do a video on the bamboo, like a full blown video, but so far, I mean, I've made a lot of parts with it as far as the actual print time.
Hmm.
Haven't had any issues with it whatsoever. So I was kind of thinking if I ran it enough, maybe I would have a hiccup that I could discuss. But so far, it's everything's working like it's supposed to. So we'll we'll give it another week or so of playing with it and printing some random things like you're talking about. I mean, I have a few parts here and there that I want, and then just random stuff, and we'll see if I can make it mess up. But I am loving the AMS. I'm not using it to its full potential, but I do like having the option to where if I want to put white text or red text or whatever in there, I can. I don't use it as much as I should probably, but it's nice
Well,
to have it in case I do want it.
yeah, it gives some flexibility. I mean, if I'm printing a number of different things, and it needs to be maybe not two different colors in the same job, but if I'm printing one parts for one thing that need to be gray, but then the next parts need to be black or white, it's nice to be able to just swap from one to the other. And the other nice thing is that if you're
Yeah,
getting down to the end of the spool, you can check the box to, you know, print out the one and then feed in the next roll as that one feeds out. So instead of
yeah,
hoping you have enough filament left on there,
yeah.
you can just
You
load
may,
up two blacks, and when
yeah,
it finishes the one, it'll just start off with the other. So
yeah. That's the one thing I haven't got mine set up that way yet, but that's the one thing that I did notice is when you start getting close to the end of a roll, you can use that to like get complete use of that roll out instead of
mhm.
having that leftover section. About time to go to bed. I don't know why I'm so tired today, man. I'm telling you, it's been a week. I think I'm hoping maybe when I wake up in the morning, maybe my leg will be back to normal, and I'll be rested instead of just still tired because I have been tired like for a week and a half now.
Yeah.
So we'll see. My wife
All
says
right.
she thinks this whatever's going on with my sinuses has got me all jammed up, but yeah, it feels like my batteries are down to about 50%.
Well, well, we will hopefully see a more energetic you next week and get over your leg injury. Maybe you just need to. I'm telling you that fishing's bad for you, man. But
No, I went and got me some new rods and everything because mine were antiques, and I broke them the other day when I went. Man, I was ready. I was ready to go yesterday morning, and then slip, pop, whatever that was, popped in my leg, and I was still trying to talk myself into go ahead and just going out there. But I'm like, sure as I go out there and get in the middle of that water, it'll start sure enough hurting, and I'll be stuck and can't get my butt back over here and get back in the truck. So I was like, I just need to go ahead and go get it looked at, make sure there's nothing seriously wrong with it, and get started taking care of it. So that's what I did, and I guess it's a good thing. So she's saying I should be back to normal within the week. So, hey Sam, if I could retire today, I would. I'm gonna be honest with you. I've got until October the 1st of 2025, and that is the earliest that I can go. But I count the days every day. I'm thinking about making me one of those little things where you flip the numbers. You know what I'm talking about?
You know,
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking about making me one of those and just like hang it over here to where it'd be like this many more days to go, and I just flip the number every day.
I would expect more from you than that.
I've got a countdown. Well, I've got a countdown created, but I can't share it with you.
We're rolling over 2 hours, and you're tired and injured, from your almost retired old manness. So we should let you go and get some rest.
Whatever.
But, anyway, thanks everyone for hanging out with us. It's always fun. Always enjoy it, and I think we've got some good video ideas coming. So we'll hopefully get those bumped up from, as someone said, from page 4 to page 2, and get some of those things out. But yeah, more things coming. I know we're both a little bit busy with other things, but trying to keep things going in the shop as well. So appreciate everyone's support, watching the videos, commenting, hanging out in the community, our own Facebook pages, and yeah, we'll see here as summer winds down and into fall how things go. But
yeah,
we'll let you wrap it up.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, it is starting to get a little cooler here. And my wife told me that yesterday or today or whatever it was, she's like, when you got the boat, you said yourself that you were just wanting to get ready for fall as it cooled off to where you could do more fishing. So maybe this was just, to keep you from getting out there and getting too hot or something. But but I'm going to try to mix it in a little bit and try to have a little more time away from the shop and from work, because I don't want the shop to become too much like a job. So I'm trying to mix other stuff in with it as well. And then, of course, when I retire, this will become my job. And, of course, we'll have like maybe, I don't know, a day or two a week for fishing and whatever else we decide to do. And we'll be sure to send selfies to Steve while he's working, about all the fun stuff we get to do.
That'll be much appreciated.
I'm sure. But yeah, 13 months, guys. 13 months and counting. So we'll hang in there till then. So, but y'all have a good night, and appreciate everybody stopping by. And we'll see y'all next Sunday night, which will be the 89 88 or 89. Let me look. If I don't get it right. This is episode 88, so it'll be episode 89 next week. So
getting ever closer to that show 100. We'll have to figure out what sort of dance we're going to do and party we're going to hold.
Well, I don't know about old dancing. I broke my leg. We'll figure something out.